If you bought a tactical trauma kit for your car and you stopped buying there, your car kit is wrong. It's not because the gear inside it is wrong, because every item in a properly built IFAC earned its place. And a few episodes ago, I walked you through a highway collision where a tourniquet inside the vehicle was the right answer. Your car kit is wrong because an IFAC alone is not a car kit. It's half a car kit. The other half is missing. Today, we build the other half. I'm Dr. Marco Torres. This is Talking TACMED, Episode 7. There is a quiet assumption in the civilian preparedness industry that a trauma kit is a car kit. But the same ripstop nylon bag with a tourniquet, a pressure dressing, hemostatic gauze, and a chest seal pair will handle whatever you walk into on the side of the road. Now, that assumption is incomplete. A highway scene is not just a medical scene, it's an environmental scene, a traffic scene, an access scene, and a hypothermia scene at the same time. Your IFAC solves the medical problem if you get to it. Most car kits I audit will never get the operator close enough to use the medical gear in the first place. This episode is for the civilian who already owns an IFAC and wants to know what their car kit is still missing. So we're going to walk through the full distribution of, injury patterns that you see in motor vehicle collisions, not just the dominant one. We're going to map gear to that full distribution. So by the end of this episode, you will have a clear, prioritized list of what to add to the kit that you already own. Now, let me begin by explaining what the injury pattern in a motor vehicle collision actually looks like, because this is where most kit building goes wrong. The pattern is bimodal. It has two ends. So let's talk about the fatal end, right? At highway speeds, a frontal collision subjects the body to forces exceeding 50 Gs for a fraction of a second. The seatbelt and airbag slow the torso, but internal organs do not slow down. They continue forward at the original velocity until they reach the end of their anatomical attachments. The aorta tears at the arch, the liver shears at the diaphragm, the brain strikes the inside of the frontal bone. Now, these are closed injuries. You can't see them, but they bleed into the chest, abdomen, and cranium. No gauze you carry reaches them, right? The dominant cause of MVA death in the field is internal hemorrhage and traumatic brain injury, not external bleeding. Now, let's talk about the survivable end. The patient you will most often encounter as a civilian responder hopefully is conscious. They have lacerations from broken glass and intrusion. They have seatbelt abrasions and bruising. They have possible fractures, neck and back pain, and a high probability of C-spine injury that you must soon until proven otherwise. They have shock from pain and adrenaline as often as from blood loss. They need warmth, calm, scene control, and immobilization. They need C-spine precaution more than anything in your IFAC. There is a third pattern that earned episodes 1 through 5 on this show: extremity arterial hemorrhage in NVAs. It happens at side impact intrusion, at ejection, at motorcycle accident, at scooter, bicycle, and pedestrian collisions. They get categorized as MVAs in trauma data. When it happens, it kills in 3 to 5 minutes. And the gear that fixes it, it's the COTSI recommended bleeding control items already in your IFAC. So the distribution looks like this. Most fatal MVA mechanisms are internal and unreachable. Most survivable presentations need warmth, C-spine awareness. A minority need bleeding control immediately. Your kit has to cover all three. A kit that covers one is simply incomplete. Now, the National EMS Model Guidelines for Civilian EMS Response, pre-hospital trauma care to mechanism of injury assessment. The mechanism tells you what to look for. What to look for determines what you need. A high-speed NVA is not one mechanism. It's a stack, right? You have blunt trauma, penetrating injury, environmental concerns, and entrapment. And the kit has to match that stack. So here's what your IFAC should already contain: a tourniquet of your choice, a emergency trauma bandage of your choice, chest seals, a pair, hemostatic agents. For every hemostatic agent, whether it's combat gauze or sealance gauze, whatever. Add at least one, possibly even 2 packs of regular wound packing cotton gauze. You also want trauma shears, marker, your Sharpie, plenty of gloves, and something to write on, whether it's a trauma card that your IFAC kit will contain or a small door notebook. Now, every one of these items is COTC recommended or built on COTC recommended principles. Keep all of it. Don't remove a single piece. We have covered some of these in the past, and we will continue to cover them as the episodes progress. Now, here's what's missing from almost every commercial tactical kit sold for cars. You have 4 categories. Category 1, scene safety and access. You're going to want an ANSI Class 2 or Class 3 rated high visibility vest. You also want your real flashlight, not the one in your phone, because that battery belongs to the 911 call. That combines a window punch, a seatbelt cutter, and you want it mounted within easy reach of your driver's seat. The combined cost of all these items, probably about 30 to 50 bucks. This combined function is getting you to the patient without becoming the second casualty. Now, category 2, you want environmental protection. This is something like a substantial wool or fleece blanket, not a thin mylar sheet alone, because trauma patients cool fast. And hypothermia in a bleeding patient worsens coagulopathy, right? The body's ability to clot itself through a mechanism or a phenomenon called the lethal triad of hypothermia, acidosis, and coagulopathy. Now, warmth is a medical intervention. You're not just keeping the patient warm for comfort, you're actually enhancing or preventing the body's ability to coagulate, to clot, from breaking down, which happens when there is a drop in the patient's body temperature. So, speaking of that full blanket, if you happen to have one in your IFAC, you can add it as a secondary layer of protection if you have, extra room in your bag. Move it on to category 3. This is C-spine awareness, right? Not C-spine protection per se. You don't want a rigid collar, because a rigid collar, a C collar, is out of civilian scope. And in many EMS systems, they're having some discussions about possibly getting rid of them altogether. What you want is a certain scope and certain rules that determine what you're going to do and what you're going to say to the patient if the patient is still conscious, for keeping them still. So I'm going to put a link to a card that you can laminate and keep in your trauma kit that can help you navigate this process. The card is the reminder that for high mechanism MBAs, no movement is your default unless there's a significant danger in the scene. Finally, category 4, documentation, a pen, a Sharpie, and a small notepad. If EMS is delayed, right? Why? Because what if you're in a rural interstate? What if there's bad weather? What if there's a multi-vehicle pileup, right? And EMS is tied up somewhere. You're going to be asked for a timeline. You're going to be asked for tourniquet application time, mental status changes, vital trends, etc. All kinds of things. Memory is unreliable under stress. Paper is not. So all of this is $60 total, max. Add them to the IFAC you already own, and you have a card kit that matches the full distribution of MVA mechanisms, not just one slice. So here's the scene the card kit needs to be ready for. Interstate, late evening, light rain. You come around a curve and see a single vehicle off the right shoulder, hood crumpled against the guardrail, hazard lights on, one person visible, slumped against the door pillar, no smoke. Traffic is moving at 70 miles an hour, 2 lanes away. Now, walk with me through the first 3 minutes. Minute 1, scene in excess. You pull over past the vehicle, hazards on, vest on. You got your flashlight, your IFAC, your blanket. You approach from the front, light visible, so that any approaching driver sees a human, not a shadow. Driver door is jammed. You use the window punch or the window hammer from your kit on the rear passenger window away from the patient. You then unlock from the inside, open the door. You get to the driver's conscious but dazed and talking. However, the left forearm is bleeding through her sleeve from a deep glass laceration. It's venous, steady, not spurting. Minute 2, mechanism and intervention. Now, this is a high mechanism collision. C-spine precaution is the default. You tell her clearly, hey, don't move your neck, stay still. You then run a rapid march sequence. M, the bleed from the forearm. It gets a pressure bandage from the IFAC. Applied directly over the laceration with firm circumferential pressure, not a tourniquet. This bleed is venous and amenable to proper pressure bandage. That's controlled. You move on to A, airway open. Why? Because she's talking. R, let's assume the breathing is normal. C, circulation. The pulse is fast, the skin's cool, the color holding. H, assume head injury and keep her warm. You just went over the entire March algorithm. Minute 3, stabilize and wait. So you drape the wool blanket over her, tucking it around her neck and shoulders without moving her head. You note the time of arrival and the time of bandage application in your notepad. You call 911 with a mile marker in your approximate location, a direction of travel, and a vehicle description. You stay with her. You watch for deterioration. What does deterioration look like? Confusion, increased pain, unusual calmness, pallor. You position your vehicle and your hazards between the wreck and oncoming traffic. Now, notice what happened. The IFAC earned its keep. The pressure bandage stopped a real bleed. Now, everything not in most IFACs also earned its keep. A vest, flashlight, window punch, blanket, notepad. Now, let's change one variable. Make that laceration a femoral spurter from a sheared piece of intrusion. And then now you, instead of using a bandage, you use your tourniquet that's already in your kit. Same march, same minute. This is what the kit has got to cover. All right, so 3 takeaways from this episode. 1, the MVA injury pattern is a distribution, not a single mechanism. You have the fatal end with closed, blunt, internal trauma that you cannot reach. And you have the survivable end, the conscious patients needing warmth, C-SPAN precaution, and scene control. A minority need bleeding control. And when they do, the IFAC in your kit is what saves them. So make sure you cover all 3. 2, your tactical IFAC contents are correct, but they're not complete for this particular situation. Add the 4 categories that almost no commercial kit includes: scene safety gear, environmental protection, a C-spine awareness card, and documentation. Roughly $60. Add them to the kit that you already own, and you have a card kit that matches the full mechanism profile of an MVA. 3, the doctrine is to match your gear to your mechanism. The mechanism in your car is not one thing, it's a stack. Blunt and penetrating, medical and environmental, access and stabilization. Build to the stack, not to one slice of it. Now, I built a car audit checklist that walks through exactly what should and should not be in your vehicle, organized by mechanism layer. It's free, and you can get it at the link below on our website. Print it, read it, go over it with your family, take it to your car this weekend, keep it there, and audit what is actually in your car kit. Now, the next episode, we shift from one patient to many. That's triage in a crowd. We'll talk about the decision tree that lets you sort 5, 10, even 20 casualties in under 2 minutes. Now, this is a framework that's taught at every FEMA training, CERT training, EMT, paramedic school, etc., throughout the country, but it's almost never taught to civilians in your average first aid class. I'm Dr. Marco Torres. This has been Talking TACMED. Stay ready, and I'll catch you next time.